Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Warcraft movie at Comic-Con 2015. What you probably all want to know is, did we get a trailer? No, we didn't get a trailer, but we do know when the trailer's coming out, which is totally a good thing, and it's probably when you expected the trailer would come out anyway. Though, in terms of what they did show, well, we got 5 to 8 minutes of footage, full scenes, and lots of stuff like that. However, approximately 6,500 people got to see that in Hall H of Comic-Con, and nobody else gets to see that other than, I suppose, the people who are working on it, so yeah, tough shit on that. Honestly, I think it would have been a lot better if we got, or ideally what I would have loved is the teaser to come out publicly at Comic-Con, then trailer 1 to come out at BlizzCon, and, then to sort of carry on from there. But that's not what we're getting. What we're actually getting is a trailer at in November 2015, and I'm going to assume that probably means BlizzCon. Duncan Jones tweeted shortly after the main event at San Diego Comic-Con for Legendary Pictures. He said, "Blood was spilled for this, ... and then in quotes, "Today has all been about San Diego Comic-Con. Now I want to let you know the trailer will finally release to all in November." Now, of course, the San Diego people, they didn't see the trailer. They just saw that preview footage, and I'll go over the preview footage in a bit of time. Overall, that sort of makes sense with how things go. Universal Pictures' last big summer blockbuster, only came out a month ago. It was Jurassic World, and it was ridiculously successful. So, Warcraft actually having the exact same sort of summer blockbuster June spot, that definitely shows that Universal thinks it can pull in a lot of money, which is definitely heartening indeed, and it makes sense that with Jurassic World, it had its first trailers and things like that about 7 months before it came out. Well, it's a little bit longer for Warcraft, but still in that rough sort of span of time. So, that's roughly what we know. The good news is, November, going to be a pretty interesting month. However, let's talk about what actually was in the teaser. Of course, I can't show you any of this stuff. That would be impossible because there's very, very, very little footage. There are 1 or 2 random clips that I've saw on the MMO Champion front page lasting 2 seconds. So I can't post them up. I'll probably get my channel nuked if I do that. It would be a very bad idea. But essentially, we do have a lot of live blog stuff, and people have said what they've seen. It starts off with orcs wandering through the wilderness on Draenor. They eventually find Gul'dan, who is using his, fell magics and crazy-ass shit to open up the Dark Portal, and specifically, he's using the souls of prisoners to do that. Durotan is also shown, and he is basically in his tent with Draka, and Draka is pregnant, we can assume with Thrall. Now, some of the orcs are a bit worried about all this portal business, because the Dark Portal, if you're honorable, it doesn't look like an honorable thing. Still, in the actual footage, Ogrim isn't too happy, but overall the consensus is, look, they have to do this because the planet's ruined, and that pretty much mirrors the Rise of the Horde book. Is that the Rise of the Horde book? The one that documents all that Warcraft 1 stuff. Basically, Gul'dan sold the idea of the Dark Portal and going across to the other clans by saying, look, this planet's ruined, we don't have food, we don't have water, we need to conquer somewhere so we can actually live. Of course, he had maybe some ulterior motives there, he did, but that's what he told them, and he certainly sold them on it, and it seems like that's what initially will happen this time. Now, on the other side of the portal, we see Lane Rain and a bunch of Alliance characters talk about how the orcs need to be destroyed. In one of the small leaked videos, I saw Lane. I think he was running in a forest or something like that. Presumably the Swamp of Sorrows, maybe somewhere similar to that. Not 100% sure, honestly, it was very grainy footage. It only lasted a second, so couldn't really garner much from it, but basically that's the main gist of what they showed. I've seen some people say there were battle scenes, I've seen some people say there were characters flying around in griffins. Garona was there for a very short time, but was dragged away in chains, so that could be to do with Gul'dan, or it could be her being dragged away after killing the king. Also, there was apparently a brief glimpse of the elves as well. Specifically about those battle scenes, though, we see some stuff that the blogger actually said was a bit like that Braveheart scene, where it's sort of panning with the Alliance on one side, sort of running towards the orcs, and the orcs being on the other side. That blogger also specifically mentioned a character hopping off a cliff, landing on a griffin, which I think was that's pretty badass, I've got to admit. Also Gul'dan, when he was at the Dark Portal, he was chanting dead, alive, as he was sort of sucking the souls out of all of those prisoners. There was also a scene of basically a bunch of Alliance characters walking through Stormwind talking, and then King Lane basically saying, look, these orcs, they're a bunch of beasts, we need to go kill them. Yeah, how's that going to work out for you, Lane? But still, it seems like a bunch of really, really cool scenes that are going to be visually impressive, and certainly for the people around who sort of know the lore, know the things, there should be some really cool nods, and just, it'll be great seeing that stuff actually embodied in the film. And that's essentially most of what we know. What all this suggests, though, is that the movie takes place after the Burning Legion and Draenei stuff. This most likely is for the good of the movie overall. Pacing's really important, and you don't have that much time when you're doing a movie. As much as I would have loved to see a big budget thrown at some of that cool Burning Legion stuff, I think it's rather superfluous to the main focus of the movie, which, by all accounts, is the effect of the orcs arriving, the effect on that on both of the races through the eyes of Durotan and Lothar. The other stuff I just think would have led to pacing issues and isn't really... Like, the main thing about this movie is it is a character movie. It's a Duncan Jones movie. If you've seen his past work, I think you'll know what he's probably going for. And, yeah, that stuff would be kind of superfluous. Plus, I can certainly see it being a little bit too much for general audiences who I think would prefer just one story that's focused on sort of one main set of events that's just nice and cohesive. Not saying that Burning Legion stuff isn't cohesive, but it kind of requires some wider lore context and various things like that, which wouldn't really work out too well here. Now, in terms of what people actually seem to have thought, well, we've got some people saying that the CGI is absolutely next level, mind-blowing, stupidly good looking, which definitely is something that makes me quite happy. I've seen a lot of people say that it really is a lot of CGI, which makes a lot of sense because most of what they showed seemed to be orc stuff. However, the IO9 blogger did say that, there's a lot of CGI when it comes to the battle scenes, and I think the quote here is, Warcraft definitely looks like it's CG and green screen, these are not real sets. Okay, here's what worries me overall about this movie. It has worried me for quite a while, don't know if I've said it before, but CGI is one of those things where it's a tool, and it's a tool that, back when it was only good enough to add a bit of sparkle to a scene and you still had to require on the good old-fashioned sort of cinematic methods, it was great. Like Lord of the Rings, great use of CGI. Not the best quality ever, but hey, it did its job and it added to the movie. Hobbit, where CGI was able to replace real sets, was able to replace real actors, replace everything, you ended up with a movie that had some of the worst action of that year. As much as Legolas 360 MLG was sort of funny, it didn't really lend itself to making tension and making good cinema. Looking at the fight scenes in the Battle of the 5 motherfucking armies, they were terrible. It was a bunch of plastic people slicing at each other with butter knives. It just looked rubbish. I worry intensely that Warcraft is going to end up with the same thing. There is a lot of motion capture going on with the main orcs. As far as I'm concerned, this fighting, I want them to be fully choreographed, motion capped sort of fight scenes. Wherein, an orc person in a pajama suit is fighting a human who is quite literally wearing the full armor that they'll be wearing in the movie in a real set. A set that's as real as it possibly can be. Like, for an example, if you're in Hellfire, you know what? Hellfire Citadel, head to I don't know, feckin' Arizona, Iceland, somewhere on planet Earth. You can make Earth look like Mars with the right feckin' color grading. I worry that's not going into real sets and things like that for the sort of primary sort of visual palette of the movie is going to lead to some problems. But again, I haven't seen footage. We're just going to have to wait and see. And hopefully, if this is a character that actually, or a movie that really wins on its characters, then maybe that fight stuff won't matter as much. But still, I'm worried, and I know a lot of people are worried. But on the other side of the coin, a lot of people have said that the CGI truly is mind-blowing, truly is amazing. The CGI of The Hobbit was also, it was overused, and it was shit. Other than Smaug. They put all of their budget onto Smaug, but the CGI itself was generally quite shit for most of the rest of the stuff. I mean, look at that gold at the end of the second movie. Yeah, so I'm worried about CGI, but hey, it could be good. Haven't seen it before. Certainly, the renders of the main characters look extremely impressive, especially the one of Ogrim. I think that's just so fucking badass. Now, in terms of other things that we do know, there was an interview with Duncan Jones in which he said that him and Chris Metzen had a bit of a chit-chat, and overall, they actually have a rough idea for what they do with a trilogy of Warcraft films, so let's hope this one does well, because if it does, we're going to get some more. Although he did say that he's going to try to slip Mute, which is one of his pet projects, in between Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2, and in a way I'm nearly more excited for Mute, because the last sort of purely original outing that he did was Moon, and Moon is one of my favourite films of all time. So that's definitely good news. Right, let's move on to the stuff we did physically see at San Diego Comic-Con. First of all, we got 2 posters. One of Lothar, as played by Travis Fimmel, who, by the way, has got like a mixture of beard hair and hair that works very well and sort of accompanies his armor, and just in general looks kind of badass. So I like this poster a lot, and what I really do like about it overall is the colors of the armor. I like the fact that it's actual real armor, and it just overall, I think he looks the part, it looks badass, it looks Warcraft, and I'm glad there's color. That's something that's kind of got to me about modern cinema sometimes. There's just a lack of color. A lot of color here, really liking it overall, and I'm going to be nicer than I usually am and forgive them for how terrible the soldiers in the background look in terms of their fidelity. It looks like he is standing in front of a game poster from 10 years ago and he looks really badass, but the stuff in the background just looks like it's made of plastic, which is a little bit weird. But still, overall, the point of this poster is Lothar. Lothar looks great. That's definitely good. Next, moving on to the one of Durotan. Honestly, I don't think this is a final render. Why do I think that? Well, we've seen the stuff of Ogrim. Ogrim looks amazing. Durotan here, just in terms of fidelity, in terms of everything, doesn't look that good, doesn't look that detailed. The lighting is it's weird lighting. I don't really... It just does. It feels very unnatural lighting. Overall, no, not really feeling this. But the reason why is because I'm assuming it isn't finished yet, because we have seen that amazing thing of Ogrim where he looks like an orc. It's really cool. Now next we've got a dagger. This is the Queen's dagger, and you might be thinking, well, we've never really heard of King Lane Rin's wife, and that's absolutely true. We've never really heard of her because she's a new character for the movie. Apparently they realized that basically Warcraft 1 and 2 was kind of all dude bros, and they just didn't really flesh out any female characters, so her name is Taria Rin, and she's got a pretty cool dagger. I like it. I don't know why there's a hole in the middle of it. Presumably, I don't know why that's there, but whatever. Pretty cool prop. Now, in terms of other things that we saw, well, there's loads of props. I think all the props look pretty damn nice. I'll probably just throw like a montage of them all up on the screen so you can see them. Overall though, I'm really loving how they have went full bore with the idea of the Alliance being like, they are blue, they are gold, they've got fucking lions in their shields. What's up with that? I mean, who even needs that? It's definitely not practical as a shield, but it's glorious as fuck, so we're going to have it. I love it. Absolutely love it. It feels like Warcraft, and that's definitely something that I'm very happy about. It feels high fantasy. It really, I'm a fan. Now we do have some character shots. How are these character shots? How are they a thing? Well, basically, as the actors are being introduced, they basically posted, or like they had these like little 3D things of the characters in the background, and a whole bunch of people who were at the event took pictures of them, which was very nice of them. The first one is Garona. I know Garona is at this stage, she thinks she's a half-human. She only finds out she's a half-Draenei when she has a chit-chat with Murad at some point. Forget exactly how that goes down. But, yeah, she actually just looks like Paula Patton, but in green paint. Not really that orcish, but again, what will actually make her feel like an orc is the performance of Paula Patton, who apparently said it was one of the hardest roles she'd ever acted in, so that's interesting. Hopefully it turns out well, though. We're just going to have to wait and see. I know I've seen like a lot of people who are pretty angry about the whole thing, but I think it's a bit pointless to be super angry about things at this stage. Next, let's move on to the Alliance. So on the very left, we've got Taria Rin, who has got a very, very rockin' dress. So grats to the costume people on that. It looks very regal. To the right, we have got a young Khadgar, who, of course, at this stage, he's just an apprentice. He's powerful, he's accomplished, but he's still a young guy, so that's him. Now, beside him, we've either got Lothar or Lane Rin. I don't know which one's which. Sorry about that. And then to the right of that, we have Medivh, who is, right now, he's just too grainy for me to really work out what he's like. And then to the right of that, we've either got, of course, Lane or Lothar. I just can't tell them apart with the kind of rather crummy resolution that we're dealing with here. Next, let's move on to the Horde characters. Yes, so at the very left, of course, we've got Garona. We've already seen her. To the right is Durotan. To the right of that is, I'm assuming, Ogrim Doomhammer. A, it looks like Ogrim. B, you can see the hilt of the not the hilt, the pommel, whatever, thingy of the Doomhammer, just sort of sitting down there, handle, whatever, the shtick. And to the right of that, we've got either Blackhand or Gul'dan. Maybe Gul'dan's the one to the right of that, because it's cut off, you can't see it, but it looks quite dark, and that maybe is something that would work with Gul'dan. Still, there's your orc cast, and that's really all that I've got to talk about for this video. Oh, also, Christie Golden is doing a prequel called Warcraft Bonds of Brotherhood. It's a graphic novel prequel. Christie Golden's great at doing things, so that should be pretty damn cool as well. But overall, that's what we're looking at. Essentially, November, it's going to be a swag as fuck month, because we're going to get the Warcraft, we're going to get the next World of Warcraft expansion released. Hopefully it's better than Warlords of Draenor, or at least reveal, anyway. And then, of course, we'll also be getting the Warcraft trailer. So overall, a very exciting month. Mark that down in your calendars. But other than that, I don't really have a great deal of things to talk about today. So there will be other World of Warcraft footage on the channel tomorrow and the day after. We've got some transmog stuff coming up. Some game design should be fun. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.